Hey everyone, I'm Adam from Solana Foundation. It's a great honor to be here to bring all the guest panelists to share what is the Web3 adoption would look like. So today we have a very awesome panelist, from Mission Labs, from the Injective Labs, and also from Sui. So I would like them to introduce themselves first, and then we'll go from the solutions for how we can get a Web3 into mass adoptions. First of all, let's get Derek.
Oh, hello everyone. I'm Derek. I'm director and head of APEC at Mr. Labs. I've been with the firm more than 3 years now. Really looking forward to the session with this amazing team. Thank you.
Yeah, and then we have Eric, the founder of Injective.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric Chen, co-founder and CEO of Injective. Injective is a highly performant, open and interoperable blockchain built for financial applications. It powers a variety of applications like RWA, spot, derivative exchanges, and many, many more. Really excited to chat about layer ones with everyone here.
And then the last we have Kate.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you guys, and very excited to be here, especially in the panel with these great guys. I'm Kit, and I do APAC Partnership Lead at Off-Chain Labs. Off-Chain Labs is the core contributor to Arbitrum. We are the L2 built on top of Ethereum. We are the only blockchain project that actually have a top 5 blockchain by economic activity and a top 3 tech stack by developer and infra provider's choice. We're the only one that could make that statement, and we believe it's a very key part of our product strategy. Additionally, we are also key roles in DeFi, which is our bread and butter. Then we have our growth in RWA, and lastly, in the gaming and consumer vertical.
And also, lastly, Solana. Solana is a layer 1 chain, launched on 2020, and then it has been 5 years. So the competitiveness for a Solana chain is it's a very cheap and a very fast to run. So mostly it's bringing user the best user experience. When you're actually making a transaction, you won't feel anything. You don't have to wait for that much. It's 400 milliseconds, so it's better off a blink of an eye. So today, we have been seeing a lot of Web3 talking about like massive adoptions, and it has been running for a while. But it didn't really get into the real daily usage yet. But we think it's coming. So this panel, we're trying to resolve, how each, the top blockchains trying to adapt into this new markets and how their strategy will penetrate into each of the new users, including the retail and the institutions. And I would like to, first of all, get into, for each of the panelists here, what are the mass adoptions means to you, and what's the strategy you have as a chain or a technology penetrating into this market? Let's starting from Eric.
Sure. So I thought actually it was for a quick intro, but then for those who are not familiar with Mr. Labs, we are creator of Sui protocol and Walrus protocol. When we keep building another infrastructure layer on the top of this. So at Mr. Labs, mass adoption, meaning frictionless experience. Actually, so users don't need to realize they're using it when it comes to blockchain. So we're making some of the efforts to develop this seamless experience. One of the example could be GK login. So basically, we wanted to eliminate those not seamless experience. Like you need to create a wallet to have this blockchain experience. Then you need to remember the phrase, and then it's gas fee. I heard today's Eric Trump's keynote, the earlier session. Even for him, back in the day, had a similar problem. So those are the friction that we wanted to remove. So back to the GK login. So everyone, without those kind of like experience, seamless experience, we can just log in with Apple or Google account. So we also have another example of sponsors transaction. So people or users or blockchain gamer doesn't need to go through this painful like gas fee and then some of the transaction get to fail, so kind of experience. So those are the big direction we are going forward. And on storage side, we also developed this new layer, infrastructure layer called Walrus. So when it comes to computation layer, we saw many development over past year, but then when it comes to storage side, we see a lot of room for development for storage layer. That's why we created this Walrus protocol to have a actually fully decentralized full stack, and then that will which will be very helpful for user seamless experience. That is key for the mass adoption.
Yeah, I think it's always like user is the number one focus. How about Injective?
Yeah, I think in like a very layman's way, your application and the presence of your network is as ubiquitous as McDonald's or Coca-Cola. And this actually isn't necessarily like mean that the name for the great blockchains out there like Solana, Arbitrum, Sui, etc. are being out there. Everyone knows about it. It's a household name. It's really about the fact that applications that power your network is capable of interfacing with the user base, with the consumer base in such a widespread and like a common way while your network is powering it. And there's actually a very interesting analogous topology of usage that you'll find in the Visa, MasterCard, and Amex network. Where basically there's like application layers, like these type of like credit card issuers and these like payment processors, et cetera, acting as almost like a application level interface with the user. And the actual network underneath it, like the Visa and MasterCards of the world, are actually the ones that are acting as a settlement layer, as a transaction layer, interfacing with all the financial institutions, et cetera. And I think that's really what we believe is the direction for mass adoption for layer 1 blockchains.
Yeah. How about the Off-chain Labs? Also, like introduce the Off-chain Labs as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Off-chain Labs is the core contributor to the technology behind Arbitrum, whether it be the Orbit tech stack, Arbitrum One, Stylus, Time Boost, and all the other innovations to come. And going back to the mass adoption question, I think of it as more of mass adoption is a journey, right? It's not a destination that you just kind of wake up one day and you're there. Like you won't even know it when it hits you with the mass adoption. There have been pockets of mass adoption that we've seen, right? Going back to 2021 when Axie Infinity brought in basically a whole country. Was that mass adoption? And now fast forward to maybe a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago with the ETFs, right? Is that mass adoption? And then now, most recently, with the DAT mania, you are seeing these kind of like inklings and signs of mass adoption coming in. But for us, we see mass adoption, like I said, as a journey, and it starts with the builders and the developers. So for us, our product strategy is around having Arbitrum One as the hub, and also our tech stack for when a developer chooses that they want to graduate from Arbitrum One to then go into having their own execution environment. So for us, it's all about focusing on the developer and providing them with not just technology support, but a really holistic support across funding, marketing, and so forth and so on. Because like Eric was saying, we do not necessarily need to be the household names. Like, frankly, how many people know that AWS and GCP basically powers the internet of the world? Like, no one knows, but everyone knows Netflix, billions of hours are consumed. YouTube, hundreds of billions of hours are consumed. So for us, it's all about the application, and it's all about getting the builders what they need. And fortunately, we're the only one that have this ability to offer you a hub for you to launch on, and then for a chain for when you're ready to graduate.
Yeah, nice. So Solana, also think about because I'm from Solana, I have to also add up my opinion to this question as well.
Excuse me, just moderating, please.
It's an opportunity to let people know Solana. So I think Solana is starting from 5 years ago has been through a lot. It was initially building those DeFi project, payments for gaming, different things, tried out different things. This cycle, I think the mass adoption is mostly stay with the institutions. We have been working with banks, asset managers, stablecoin issuers, and also different ETF issuers. So trying to get into what are the real institution interest, and also as well as we're not forgetting like retails. And I think that able to capture both retail and institutions, we're probably capturing the next wave, where retail has a lot of users, institution has a lot of capitals. So this combined will become the next massive adoptions. But also curious to learn between retail and institutions, what are each of the you see as a strategy, how you're penetrating into both markets, right? Sometimes Derek mentioned you guys are also looking into a lot of institution stuff. Eric is putting a lot of efforts into settlement layer and then putting efforts behind different projects, as well as Arbitron has been doing a lot of back-end infrastructures for traditional finance. How are you guys seeing this is actually penetrating into both markets, or are you thinking directly go to institution, or go to the retail as a secondary derivative?
You want me to start? Or?
Sure, yeah, please.
Okay. So, I guess the two key examples that everyone thinks about is Robinhood and also BlackRock. But these two actually came to Arbitrum from very, very different sources. So for Robinhood, they chose Arbitrum because of what I mentioned earlier of the ability to launch and go to market today on Arbitrum 1, get instant access to users, feedback, liquidity to continue improving their product, while they're working on building out their chain with the proper KYC, AML compliance, the UI, UX of it, and all of that, right? Tweaking the right parameters. And they chose Arbitrum because they were able to capitalize on this launch, then migrate. So I call it GTM by LTM, right? And this is available towards any project. It doesn't have to be a large one like Robinhood, for example. And so for the institutional sales cycle, I think there's two parts. There is the signaling element of like, hey, who else is using your technology? That kind of gets you in the door and opens the conversation. And then there's the technical due diligence part, as it goes through a very, very long compliance process for that. And for institutions, it's a much longer sales cycle, right? Versus on the retail side, right? The retail side is about rapid velocity of shipping product and testing new things and novel use cases. And particularly in crypto, we see products' life cycle literally could last maybe 3 days. Like, folks here may have saw like football.fun, right? Literally maybe 3 days worth of virality and adoption per se. So it's all about getting more shots at goal on the retail side, in my opinion, and having these like unique novel use cases for them to come in.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think what's really fascinating about like the history of Injective and kind of like the approach that our team has taken in the past is that we're probably one of the very few generalized blockchains out there that runs and operates its own user-facing application dApp. So we actually support and built Helix, which is a premier like a decentralized exchange where users can get access to all forms of crypto assets with leverage trading, et cetera. But also on top of that, recently the most impressive feature has been being able to access stocks, commodities, indices, and stuff like that with leverage, which actually has never been that easily accessible until now. And the reason why we kind of went down that approach is that we basically want to make sure that we have both the efficacy towards the consumer touch and also the institutional touch. We want to make sure that the product stack that we're offering, that we're building towards institutions, towards different types of dApp developers and different types of builders are coming from our experience building our own application, are constantly adjusting for the infrastructure, for the modules that we use, so that other dApp developers or other institutions can basically virtually immediately just integrate it and plug and play with it. As a matter of fact, get off the ground extremely quickly because we have already built everything that's already live and functional because we have a production showcase. And I think that's certainly kind of solidify Injective's positioning as this blockchain built for finance, rather than trying to be relatively more generalized than like the rest of the folks here. Because we just have this root, this DNA, and this like canonical module layers that allows for that's like tailor made for financial builders.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, yeah, please.
On the top of what Eric shared, and I also agree, that's a really interesting point you brought up from institution angle. So I think what we, and Mr. Last, what we have been trying to do this for mass adoption, I think we have different sector, but I think we try to identify just real demands first, and then try to come up with the solution. And one of the key culture and core engine of Mr. Labs is our internal engineers also really have really strong. So we have been keep developing and then launching new tools, and then most of them actually is for mass adoption and seamless experience, as I mentioned. So for example, when I talked to a couple of the large Korean gaming developers, they saw these demands of this gacha item, sort of like a lottery, which is really one of the key monetization way in Korean gaming scene. And then we came up with the solution which provide the randomness in blockchain. That's one. And then two, when as Kiat mentioned, we also saw similar demands for KYC or KYB environment for compliance, which is really important for Korean listed company or our global financial institution. Then we come up with a solution. So basically, we try to identify the real demand, and then to execute it after we develop this kind of tool, we try to see with show the market with a case study. So we actually one of our thing is called Sweet Pleasure X1, is a gaming device. I think it's industry first gaming device. With that hardware, we try to provide experience with the real use cases, how this is gonna work in blockchain without users doesn't need to know is actually blockchain inside. Users can play game, Steam game or blockchain game with the device. So one is, to sum up, one is we identify the demand and then provide the solution, and then beef up the market education effort by delivering your product.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think this cycle we see a lot of different products come up. For example, like there's a tokenized stocks, right? This is like what Solana and Arbitrum has been like competing with, and then there's stablecoin. Of course, there's like a lot of companies doing stablecoin right now, payment stuff. Also trying to use that in the gaming part, and then there are a couple others as well. What do you guys see? Would be the killer app or a killer, I would say, product for the mass adoptions. Like I think we have been talking about this for 10 years already, but this has been changing, and now is more and more like a traditional finance product. But still, like curious to see how you guys see this. What would be the killer use case for mass adoption for crypto or blockchain? We can start with Kate.
A killer use case. Thanks for starting with me with such an easy question. I think the killer use case actually, like you were saying, changes with time. And currently in this regime, the killer use case is RWAs, issuing assets on chain. And that, frankly speaking, is one of the hottest areas on Arbitrum right now. The chart for like the RWA TVL is just up and up and up and up to the right. And there's about, I think, almost 375 million worth of RWA assets issued on Arbitrum 1. And going back to my point earlier about how Robinhood chose to work with Arbitrum because of their tech choices, and then BlackRock chose to work with Arbitrum because we created a new program called the Stable Treasury Endowment Program. And this allows the DAO to purchase some of these RWA products from these issuers. And by purchasing it, they then now have to deploy on top of Arbitrum. So now it becomes a dual mandate if you were to say this program earns yield for our treasury while also onboarding these world-class legacy institutions. So the killer use case is really dependent across the different verticals and also dependent on the current time and what is exciting.
Yeah, makes sense. I think like as time goes by, right, it used to be like DeFi. That's like 5 years ago, and now it's more of like RWA, how crypto blockchain helping institutions to launch their assets on chain, and then making like a more of a infra levels like efficiency increase. But yeah, how about the injective? What do you think, Eric?
Like you said, like it certainly evolves over time, and I think the most interesting part is that the bar for mass adoption changes and elevates over time.
Yes.
That's the most interesting part because essentially what we're dealing with is if we're trying to compare ourselves against like TradFi or like brokerages, one of the biggest concern for from the investment community is that like there's not enough people participating in the stock market, everyone's not saving up and stuff like that. So like we're kind of like having this like obstacle when it comes to like reaching mass adoption. And now crypto is certainly at a stage where we're kind of past that point. We're interfacing with a much bigger crowd than exclusively just the investing public. We're also encroaching into like payments. We're encroaching into various very interesting verticals like gaming, etc. But I mean, in my opinion, and obviously we're a little bit biased, is that I think a lot of what we've been building, a lot of what the space has been paying attention to or considered to be mass adoption are essentially individual building blocks towards a much more holistic generalization of everything finance app. Essentially, we have like DeFi, which is in hindsight, it seems like almost like at least back in the DeFi summer days, it almost feels like different types of fruit coins, compounding, and different types of like yield primitives. But in reality, it was almost like solidifying like the fundamental building blocks of like a blockchain native financial primitive. Now, there were a lot of interesting coins involved, but what solidified after DeFi summer were a lot of these mechanisms that proved to be ready for RWA use cases, for the mainstream use cases. And then obviously there's stablecoin, payment rail. We're seeing these type of like promises of mass adoption, promises of mainstream attention. But in reality, they're really building blocks to form everything together and then kind of like converging at this nexus of basically like a finance super app. And a user interface, it could be like a very butter smooth, kind of like a consumer-friendly application that does everything from payment to savings to yield earning to investing to maybe like trying out different meme coins and stuff like that, or trying out high velocity trading. But all within the same app, all globally accessible, and that's something not a single application within a TradFi or like Web2 world can compete with because how we the crypto space has a shared global settlement layer.
Yeah, makes sense. I think like everything one app is the key, and also like crypto has the efficiency that traditional finance is very hard to catch up. For example, like if I send in some money to any of you here, it probably take like 400 milliseconds. Versus like if I want to send you money over the banking system, I probably take like 4 or 5 days. First of all, I need to get a bank account first. So I think like the killer app is everything one application, and then user can benefiting from crypto efficiency as well. How about you, Derek?
That is actually $1 million question or even more. And then I agree. On top of what Kia said, I think one of the examples that I like was this AWS for the cloud. I mean, that's the thing that we need to. So we are layer one. So we are infrastructure provider technically. So we like users or developer when they use product. As Kia said, they don't need to know this is the data is stored in AWS, or this is developed, or the layer one it was Sui or which whatever. That's not what we want, right? I mean, for mass adoption, gamer play game for fun, just like people when people go to a restaurant, they want to enjoy the tasty food. Not doesn't need to care about like which ingredient was saved on which brand of refrigerator or etc. So that's the direction. And then as an infrastructure provider, we try to keep building things to eliminate those friction. Like last week, we launched SEO, which is basically for project or asset holder to verify certain key information or certain layer, just like in traditional industry, people set up password for certain information or authenticator. So that's what we try to do. So we are also very excited to see the killer app comes up in the market when this kind of environment is ready. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that Mission Labs has been trying different aspects, in gaming, payments, vertically like DeFi. Which one would you say is the most successful? Like, what's the takeaway for that?
I think from a couple of things that I mentioned today, I'm excited for one is for infrastructure, one is GK login, because that help us bring in a lot of users without users have to set up those wallet or phrase just with this social account. Much easier onboarding process, which is very helpful for traditional Web2 users to have a experience on Web3. And what I'm very looking forward to was the near future is the gaming device, so it's Pro 0x1. I think that will also help mass adoption in a way that people again doesn't need to realize this is blockchain game, but then there's already they're already playing it. So innovation shouldn't be providing more complexity, but instead provide more value. Then I think mass adoption or that's inevitable. So that's what we are trying to do, and very looking forward to it.
Got it. And you guys also have developed a one-stop platform for developer and the users to build their whole on-chain
Yes.
storage, stuff like that. Do you have more? What's the advantage for that? And yeah.
Yeah, thanks for providing me time to share more. So, for example, as Walrus I mentioned, that is a storage layer. So I think that's one example for the builders. Actually, most of the project where builders or developer we met, they have been storing their data in very traditional way, like AWS, as Kia mentioned, or for our game developer, Tencent cloud or other cloud provider. But that is not fully decentralized and many inefficiency when it comes to interacting with blockchain layer and now recently AI layer when data needs to go back and forth. So that's the first step that we are trying to build.
Got it. And I want to ask Eric about, Injective has been a long time, very vertically specific focus, on gaming and a couple others area. And what's from your perspective to grow, the whole ecosystem long term, and what would be the targets?
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting thing about these type of ongoing trends and the kind of the rotation across various different types of popularity or narratives from recently there's been stablecoin, prediction market, et cetera, is that there's almost always a financialization aspect with it. Yeah. Even for something I remember back in the day, which is NFT or art related NFT, et cetera. We all figured out a way to have a financialization mechanism to it, allowing for NFT collateralized lending, et cetera, or having indices around the overall NFT market. So for us, it's really about given that we're relatively a much more kind of a focused direction when it comes to the ecosystem and the blockchain, and that's our primary selling point, where we can self-evolve very naturally, where we're not necessarily being distracted in various directions or kind of diverting our resources. Is that no matter what we do, it's going to be the best possible platform as a chain, as a layer one, as a module, as an application towards various financial use cases. And at the core or the nexus of it, there is the exchange module, which powers the derivative and also spot exchange mechanisms. And then there's also a lot of complementary modules like the Oracle, et cetera. And of course, now with our new multi-VM initiatives like COSM, WASM, plus EVM, plus SVM, and also our ongoing efforts in terms of pushing forward, institutional adoption, especially a couple of days ago with Pineapple Finance, et cetera. I think all that to point towards is that we want to be the best possible building block for decent developers and finance, for them to be able to build an aggregator for trying to be the everything app for trading, or for someone to be able to have leverage exposure towards different types of equities, indices, et cetera, or building the next iteration of something highly advanced where they have to utilize something highly performant. And Injective is trying to position themselves to be the best place for it, to basically provide the best possible environment for these type of application developers, and basically making sure that they take the most or make the most out of utilizing our modules.
Yep, makes sense. So everything chain and a modular base is the key. Yeah, makes sense. How about Arbitron? You guys has been winning different big deals with the BlackRock and Robinhood, and you guys are developing Arbitron One and Stylus. Does that helping you winning the deal?
Absolutely. I'm gonna start with the technology, and then I'll go across the three verticals on what insights I see from the mass adoption side. So on the technology piece, we released Stylus literally a year ago. And what Stylus is, it allows for developers to code smart contracts in C, Rust, and C++. Right? And not only that, you could do 60% Rust, 20% C, 20% C++. Right, and that smart contract will actually be backwards composable with all other Solidity contracts on Arbitrum or Orbit chains as well. And that 1,000x's the developer talent pool. You no longer have to find that very, very small pool of Solidity developers. I think it is a huge innovation that we released and not really appreciated by folks yet. However, in the partnership conversations, everyone notices, oh, Stylus, because as anybody here knows that who runs a company, hiring is an extremely, extremely challenging role and function. So for us to be able to really 1,000x that talent pool for some of our partners, it's a really big draw for them. So that's on the technology piece. And now across the verticals, so Arbitrum is the king in DeFi. We started with the DeFi innovation as the core hub, and you see new DeFi primitives constantly be building on top of Arbitrum. And to drive adoption, like what Eric was saying, financialization is literally in everything we do. So we introduced meta financialization called our DRIP program, the DeFi Renaissance Incentive Program. And unlike all the others where it's hey, here's a basket of tokens, go and give it whichever way you want, we're doing it with intention where, hey, for our season 1, we want to incentivize lending and borrowing and looping. So for those specific actions, we are rewarding users to do so, right? And this is important because that's what our projects and builders told us that they want more. That is their KPI, right? Us as a chain is to help them succeed. And one mantra we have internally is we help our partners solve their most challenging problems. That is a mantra that we operate behind the partnership team. And then, so that's for DeFi. For RWAs, that frankly starts with assets under management. And that's what all the issuers really care about. So then we as a chain have to help them by actually purchasing some of these products ourselves in our STEP program. And through that is the insight that we see that these guys just need AUM. And then lastly, on the gaming side, we have RWA, or rather a STEP program, is how we see that we can bring trillions of dollars on chain. And conversely, we have our Arbitrum gaming ventures for us to bet and bring on the hundreds of millions and billions of users, right? That is kind of the two pillars that we're pushing really hard on. And for the gaming side, as Derek was saying, the developers monetize via loot boxes, gachas, battle passes, cosmetics. It all happens at the application level. I have never met a game dev that said to me, Kit, you know, I love paying gas fees. Gas fees is what I live to do. I build my app so I can pay gas fees. I've never ever heard that. So then if our blockchain, the only way for us to capture value is through transaction fees, we're kind of in conflict with our builders. So instead, we created this Arbitrum Gaming Ventures for us to be on the cap table. Now we are truly partners with the developers, and now we're able to both capture value at the application level, right? So those are across the 3 verticals of insights on how we secure mass adoption.
Awesome. Yeah, we still have a little bit of time left. I'll just talk about Solana, because I think Arbitrum has been selling too hard. So Solana is actually, has very good technology. So if any of you are from financial institution, more than welcome to talk to us, because Solana has the whole solution trying to for stablecoin. We got approval from NYDFS to for PayPal launch their PYUSD on Solana, and then Robinhood launched their stablecoin called USD Global on Solana. So with that help, it really helps us to penetrate into other regions. And then, getting to the real-world assets, RWA. I see that, RWA has 2 sides. One is the financial assets, which is, I think, really makes sense. For example, there's like money market fund. There's like, those like private fund. You launch the assets on chain. So hopefully by the, this year, we will see the Clarity Act will pass in the US. Once that passes, I think that will allow, institutions to get into DeFi. That will unleash a lot of the capital and the liquidity into the DeFi ecosystems and making the whole industry like even more robust into massive adoptions. But besides, I think we also think about like real world physical assets. But I think that a little bit tough. We saw that a couple of different cases. Like for example, Ant Financial in Asia, they were selling this RWA called solar panel, right? They have a part of the farm. And they're doing that, but I think they did it with Mr. Labs. Very unfortunate, but Solana is more focused on like how to get a financial product on chain and make that to the massive adoptions. The reason is because like the technology itself has a very compliant way. Without like writing a smart contract, you will be able to achieve 13 different features, and then you'll be able to do a lot of gas saving process. There you don't have to pay gas. Because like there's a called gasless relayer, so as a issuer or as a even the carrier, they can just subsidize the gas. So to be more specific, $10 you probably can make transaction on Ethereum for 3 or 4 times, and you had to wait for 10 seconds to 1 minute for each transaction. On Solana, $10 you can make about 40,000 transactions. And each transaction take you 400 milliseconds. So that's a really user difference and experience difference. So I think really appreciate for the panelists today. Everyone share a lot of insights and a lot of their view for the future adoptions. So hopefully this is really helpful to everyone. And thanks for the time.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Go.